Up next, Bob and I had another amazing conversation with Patrick Durkin of the Wellness Enterprise, and we took our conversation well beyond water topics this time and covered some stock trading, environmentalism, and how to work with orgone devices. So we hope you enjoy the show. Hello there. I am Yasmin West here with my husband Bob West of Radio Bob. And we have Patrick again for another lovely discussion. Say hello, Patrick.
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much. It's great to be back with you guys.
Yeah. And we both, all three of us have kind of gone through some upheaval the past month. So I'm sure that might uh, trickle into the conversation. But we're here just to have a good time and raise awareness and uplift humanity as usual with our knowledge base. So, with that said, I know, Patrick, maybe we want to start out with you just moved to a new
Yeah.
home, and maybe you want to let us know how that's been going.
Yeah, it's funny you say it might trickle into the conversation like a tsunami enema, like that kind of trickle, right?
Yeah.
It's been intense. I moved on March 6th. It's March 28th, and we just in the time that I got here had the 40 or 50-year storm like right after I got here. And so the first couple of days of it. Uh, there's a, there's a, well, I'm going to go back a little further. I don't think other people notice this, but I sure do. So I drive about 15 minutes downhill to get to the city in Maui. It's called Kahului. And when I'm driving down, I get a very wide, expansive view. And I started noticing that there was a haze that would be out over the middle of the Central Valley, the low-lying land. And whenever it was there, I felt suicidal. I was like, what the hell? I haven't had suicidal thoughts for 7 years. And I'm like, what's going on? And it repeated. And I'm like, okay, like I don't understand this. And so I have a large cosmic tower here. We haven't really talked about cosmic towers, but the large cosmic tower is a 7 foot tall, 500-mile range torus field generator. So it creates a natural spin for energy and life. And so I sat with the Taurus with I call it Merlin, the Maui magician. I was like, all right, Merlin, like your job is to remediate the environment. Like whatever it is about this that causes me to think the way that I do when it's there, please stop it. Like please remediate it. Take me back to nature and to the authentic expression of myself. And it worked. I like ever since that day that I made that request, I haven't had any suicidal thoughts, but I've been aware of when it's there. And this goes back to witnessing the chemtrails in Massachusetts in 2012, 13, 14, 15. I was in the same house year after year with a really wide open sky, and the pattern became pretty apparent. The planes fly, the chemicals spread, the sky turns into like the top of a fish bowl, kind of a foggy, false atmosphere. It's like a false ceiling. And then within 48 hours, it rains. And I'm like, okay, like that's how it rolls. So I started noticing this haze for like 6 consecutive weeks. And I was like, what is going on around here? And the 6 weeks happened to coincide with my daughter moving here. And so it was like a really obvious time frame for me because I remember the date she moved here. I know she hasn't swam in the ocean yet. It's 2 months yesterday that she's been here and she hasn't swam in the ocean yet. And so it's a really noticeable time frame for me. And actually I haven't swam in the ocean in those 2 months. Like that tells you a lot.
Because it's been too cold and stormy.
Yeah, it's been like you don't want to swim when there's no sun, and the sun's been blocked out by these false skies. Not entirely, but partially. And we've had a lot of like weird clouds. Like if you want to know what clouds look like, go look at photos from the 1970s of skies. Those are clouds. So this isn't clouds. And so we've had this false ceiling for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then when the wind blows from the other side of the island here, it's called a Kona low. And the Kona low comes from the west, and it happens about 15% of the time, not like 25 out of 30 days. Like usually, like I'm used to weather patterns in New England in the Northeast. So you get a nor'easter in the winter, and you see the wind start to spin a particular orientation towards shore, and the storm comes up from the New Jersey area and up over Massachusetts, and it spins and it dumps a lot of precipitation. It goes out to sea. Like that makes sense. This has just sat on us. Like I don't know. I feel powerless. I feel like a little kid on the playground with the fattest kid in my class sitting on top of me. I feel so powerless for it, and it's just an awful, awful, awful feeling. And so we've had Kona wind and Kona wind and Kona wind and Kona wind and rain and rain and rain. And I'm talking about like when the first part of the storm came. It came from the other side of the island. So I'm on the wet side, the traditionally wet side. And so I'm protected from a Kona low. And so people were getting deluged down in Kihei and over in Lahaina, and I was dry because the it wasn't getting carried over the island. But when it finally came over, we got about 6 inches of rain, which is enormous.
Mhm.
Over there, they were getting dozens of inches of rain. I mean, it was crazy. But this land could handle the 6 inches with like one flooding. And it was intense, but we handled it. But now that the ground is saturated, now it doesn't take nearly as much. And so the other day, it rained over here for like, I think from about 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. And it was like at least 4 inches of rain, and it might have been up to six. And we were just completely flooded. Like I'm out there with a shovel. I had already put in a 4 inch, 5 inch pipe that was I put right in the middle of the waterfall, and it was taking water around the house. And then I had dug a trench right next to that. And now I was out like tripling the trench because the water was up against the house. So the part for me that's like just really like saddening is that our environment is being controlled, and we on a day-to-day basis don't realize that that's true. So, my daughter is inside of a worldview that is more traditional. And I was like, listen, there's some tension in our relationship about this dialogue about weather modification. So I just have one request. Would you please go online and look up weather modification patents? Just just go look and see that there are such a thing as weather modification patents, and get yourself familiar with that the state of Florida, which is really leading the cutting edge right now of um, freedom, has made it a felony to put chemtrails in the sky over Florida. It's yeah, 5 years of prison, $100,000 fine. You know about that, Bob?
No, but so you're on a subject that I have kind of two baselines on, and I wouldn't want you to think that I don't believe that there are nefarious individuals that might take advantage of a system or a process without us knowing.
But we have the eagle too.
Okay, wait,
Okay.
let me try to get this through.
All right.
So number one, I don't like civilian air travel at all. Period. End of subject. You could get rid of every airport right now on this planet that the civilian walks into, private and commercial, and it would just make me the happiest guy in the world. And it has nothing to do with chemtrails. It has to do with overall economics and the physical detriment that it does to the planet in general. We don't need to do it. Let the military fly and protect us, and you and I can get around on a boat or a plane much cheaper and better for the planet. So that's number one for me. Number two, contrails, which get produced by commercial aircraft and other aircraft that don't necessarily have what you might call as a chemtrail or weather modification aircraft, still have oils, fuels, pieces, debris, and other things that get spread in their contrails that are detrimental to our atmosphere. And when 9/11 happened, and Yasmin and I walked outside and looked up at the first clear blue sky we had seen in 30 years, I knew right then we didn't need airplanes. So then the argument went right out the window for me. I'm not into this weather modification at all. Because of that, we don't need it, right? I know what we need to do. Get rid of the airplanes, we'll get back to normal because the air is one of our two primary filter systems for the planet. So you have air and you have water, and you need a vast amount of air to dilute the abuse that we've done to it. Water, we talk about dilution is the solution to pollution. So you have to have a lot of air. So every time you screw it up, it can filter itself, and it uses the water regeneration cycle from our oceans to do that. So you need a big ocean with lots of little creatures eating all the debris in it, right? So these two things symbiotically work together. And chemtrails and weather modification is telling that cycle to stop doing what you're doing, and we know better, and we don't. We've been around for X and the planet's been around for Y. I think the planet knows what we're doing. You were talking about Maui and the Kona winds. If you look at the island from the south, the island looks like an airfoil. It rises to a peak of about 3/4 of its landmass, and it almost virtually stops and drops your side of the island. And so what you have is this effect of all the weather getting trapped and pushed and caught on this really beautiful sloping side of Maui where all the beef is raised and the farms are and stuff like that, this beautiful land, and it rolls back down to Kihei and Lahaina. But on your side, you get the other effect, which is cool. It puts you on the safe side, except for what might have happened with your grades and things of that nature. The planet isn't like us. So when I make a mess in the garage, I go out and I clean it up 5 seconds later. The planet doesn't work like that. So we just had this recent event in Lahaina that was devastating to our natural environment, right? Where you had all the fires, so you have all this debris and everything else. I kind of think the planet's smarter than us. So it probably knew that. And it probably figured that at some point here, I got to give this place a rinse, a really good flush. And so if you look at your historical winds and rains that have happened throughout history and your fires and everything else, it makes sense that every once in a while, something is going to come through there and flush all that stuff back down to the ocean. And I think you just got caught.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and it's a mixed thing for me when I talk with Merlin about like remediation and creating harmonic energy fields. What I often am intending is whatever's natural about this, let it come through with ease and grace.
Yeah.
But whatever is man-made, dissolve it,
Yeah, you got
right?
to get rid of it. Yeah.
So, are you familiar with Veda Austin's work, you guys?
I've heard of it, but I haven't.
Gotcha. So
Yeah,
she picked up where Dr. Emoto left off, right?
right.
So Dr. Emoto took water crystallography, flash froze water, and took um, photographs of the crystals that were created, and then came to understand if you influence the water with a certain pattern, then it'll be visible in the water. Veda Austin has moved that to a rolling dialogue with water. And water has shown her that it has an intelligence. She's learned it over, I think it's fair to say now, hundreds of thousands of freezing and then photographs.
Mm.
And an example would be she's sitting at a cafe, she sees a schnauzer drink out of a water bowl. She takes a drop of the water home, she freezes it, and the crystal that comes out is the schnauzer. Or she takes a sunflower seed and she puts it in the water, and what comes out of the freezer is a sunflower, not the seed, but the potential of the seed.
Right.
Really, really amazing work. So there's a guy who lives down the street from me who posted on Instagram, and he took water from this Kona Low and froze it. And he had a bunch of arrows pointing to the different things that he was seeing. And it was like electrical um, distortions in the water.
Mm.
But then the shocking part is just like the schnauzer showing up, the letters AI were in the water unmistakably.
Interesting.
It takes it to a whole new level. So, Bob, we can have like this, really reasonable interpretation of things that makes a lot of sense, that helps to like, mitigate fears and concerns about these things and say that nature is just washing us over. And then these signs are getting passed through humanity, and having AI identify itself in the water opens up a whole new level of interaction between the possibility. It's kind of like if you study parasites, there's a story that goes that there's a parasite that causes rats to go near cats and get eaten. And the reason that happens is then the parasite can be hosted in the cat too, right? And so, how far does this consciousness story go? I don't know. I'm just open to all of it. When we have a conversation like this, I'm not pretending to like know something. I can just tell you my personal experience and what I've taken from it and what I've made it mean. And whether that helps anybody else or not, I have no idea. But I know these things are controversial, and I make room for like humility around the whole thing.
Well, we did a little experiment several years ago. We have an orgone device in our backyard. And it's handmade by someone. It's has copper pipes and there's various orgone materials in the base with crystals and metals, and it's buried in our backyard. And Bob and I, when we received this device, we worked with it, and at that time we had just moved in. It was 2020, and then it was 2021 where we had a pretty bad fire year and drought year here in California. And so we just decided to work with the orgone device to bring in rain. And it's funny, it was successful. And we actually, even the following year, we took California out of the drought. And I say we, but I go back and I hear stories of people on other podcasts that we weren't the only ones doing it. Everybody was setting intention out there for this to happen and to get rid of California's drought. And I don't know, you want to chime in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just so you understand, Patrick, I don't believe that the nefarious things in weather modification out of some aircraft is a conspiracy theory. No, it's an absolute fact. It isn't. It is a fact. It's an absolute fact. Do I believe that every airplane up in the sky is involved in this conspiracy theory? No, I don't. I don't, because I studied World War II history, and we had the effects of contrails were being studied in 1942, and there was a war on, and we certainly didn't have a lot of weather modification aircraft flying around at that time. And so if the US Air Force was looking at the potential effects of contrails and jet streams then, imagine where we are now, right? And so when I talk about affecting the filtration system of this planet like I would at my work, I look to remove the most offensive thing I can find first that will benefit our society the most, which is why I don't want to use oil. And people go, oh, you're an oil conspiracist. No, I've worked on an oil rig. I believe in oil. Oil has uses, but we don't need to use it when we have garbage that we need to put somewhere. So let's use the garbage that we don't need to put anywhere to make the energy instead of going around the planet digging up oil. We make garbage right at our house every day. We don't make oil at our house every day. And so we got this eagle, and she told me what it was, and I went, yeah, okay, right. But I said, okay, let me disprove the fact that you can't work with this thing. So I said, what's it made out of? Well, it's made out of copper. Okay, and it's got some other parts, some shungite. It's got this and it's got that. So I looked at orgons, and then I looked at the history of the weather in California where I lived, where the mines were, the nickel mines, the copper mines, the zinc mines, the gold mines, the silver mines. And I noticed that the major weather pattern going up the Sierras, went by nearly every mine that was known in the Sierras in a 70-mile radius. And I said, well, what is the eagle? Well, you know what it is? It's all of that stuff that came out of a mine that's about 5 miles wide, condensed into this little package. And it's designed to look at the atmosphere and do the same thing that this entire area is doing. So am I crazy for putting it in the yard and hoping that it makes rain? I don't think so. Right. And so I talk to it every night. I thank it every night for being there.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah, I
not?
understand. When I first started selling structured water devices, it's pretty wacky, right? Like you're going to change the energy of water. Wait a minute. I thought it was all about chemistry and filtration and purity and safety. And I met some great people who had had experiences like the types we're sharing with each other. And one of them in particular, I was driving from Massachusetts down to Connecticut, and she invited me to stop by her home in Connecticut. And so I went, equipped with my various devices. And she's like, "Well, do you want to go out in the backyard and meet Brian?" And I was like, "Who's Brian?" And Brian is a bucket, like a Home Depot 5-gallon bucket with 6 foot tall pieces of copper, kind of like a organ in a church. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, well, what's what's going on here? And she tells me about this device and how it's impacting the atmosphere, which is like way beyond my capability in that conversation. And then she tells me that Brian's got a sister in Rhode Island. And what I know is that she plunked down whatever the amount was, $1,300 or something that day, and bought a whole house structured water device from me. And she introduced me to the other one in Rhode Island's owner, and she did the same thing. And I was like, well, whatever these people are into, they're also into the energy of water, which I was looking to water God creator to manifest through people to teach me what that was. Because I'm not going to go into a lab and learn about structured water. I'm going to go into people and learn about structured water. And so she would, that person is an animal communicator, and she has a newsletter around animal communication, and she ended up marketing the structured water devices from me through her community. And she was a very successful referral agent for a number of years. And then in 2020, so about 7 years later, I ended up in a situation where my dog was um, making it difficult to live where we were. We were living at a friend's house. We had just moved to Texas, and they had chicken and sheep,
Oh,
and so he was very rough on their animals, including eating a couple of them. And so I didn't know what to do. So I scheduled a session and communicated with my dog about what was going on for him. And, the conclusion ended up being this is not trainable. This is nature. This is who he is. And so I moved. But I had to have communication. So the richness of that communication made my life better. And maybe some people think I'm nuts, but what I think is nuts is being closed-minded.
right,
Is
right.
thinking whatever you think. If you think you know and you don't have room for my story, then how are you going to figure out what life is really about?
Yeah, and not to get weird or political or any of that, but we get in these conversations with people and they're going, well, you didn't grow up in a single parent household, so you don't know what it's like. So our discussion is over. Or you didn't grow up in Milwaukee, so you don't understand what it's like to be in a beer society. Or you didn't grow up in California, so you don't understand surfing. So how can you possibly understand my relationship with water? And the answer is, so you want to close the door on me so that you don't have to justify your world. And you can pick on my world to feel better about your world. And then we'll go both off and do whatever it is that we're doing. How about we turn that around and we find a way to talk to each other, right? It's
Well,
it's amazing.
it's getting really bad out here, Bob, because like in this house that I just moved to, I am sure that the families around me are really nice people. But this neighborhood, like so many around it, has become fenced. And
Oh,
so exactly zero neighbors have come over to bring out the welcome wagon. And nobody's peering through the fence. Like there's beings moving on the other side of the fence, and we know each other's there. And I don't want to impose on them, and I'm sure they have their stories and very reasonable things about why they don't want to impose on me. And so we're getting locked into our separation, and we're also locking people away from nature because, if you go in a plane and you look down on this earth and you see how many trees there are, like it's just extraordinary. And then you see the roads that go through. When you're on the road, you think the whole world is roaded and that it's just the edge of the road, what you can see. But when you're in the plane, you see it goes on forever. So if you line all the roads with homes, with fences, and then you push all the wild land beyond those borders, it gets harder and harder for human beings to just go have a relationship with nature. And so we're getting really deeply, fully separated from one another. It's brutal. And everybody hungers for more concept, more contact, and more friendship, and more love, and more touch, and just like hugs in the neighborhood, like real human beings. We all want it. And yet we've been pushed into protection, so we're not giving it to ourselves. So for me, the thing that keeps me willing to live is being open to that I don't know and that I might be part of the solution if I allow myself to know whatever's true for this being. I have no idea what's true for anybody else. Half the time I don't even know what's true for me. But some of the time I do know what's true. And then I get to act from there. And I'm just trying to do more of that with my life.
yeah, it's one of the things that we kind of discussed about with our website and on our website. We discussed this one page, it's called Planetary Considerations, and I put my screed up there for waste energy, and I'll put my screed up there for a few other things because you have to protect the planet. People talk about, is space important? And the answer is space is only important to us if we feel our species needs to exist beyond this planet. If we don't feel that we need to exist beyond this planet, then we should be concentrating on the planet as if it was our own body. And to some people, 10% of the people on the planet, they will think I am a crazy lunatic for saying it. And for 10% of the people, they'll think they should lay down their lives to do it. And you and I really just want to talk to the other 80% and say, I'm not sure if it's the way to go, but I think it's something we should consider and actually get them to talk again. And people have become so tribal or so oriented in their one news source or so big on their own education that they won't look at yours. And if you're willing to ask questions for answers, which you are, it proves that you're a smart person because dumb people don't look for answers. They know them all.
I think one of the luckiest, hardest things that happened to me in this lifetime was 18 years into my career as a financial advisor. My health was so compromised that I had no choice but to leave that industry. And when you stand in a new place, you see shadows and things and angles that you never could have understood before. And so I think what happens is if you stand in two different places in life as the predominant orientation, you start to realize principles instead of like protection of a point of view. You start to realize, oh, in all the different areas of life, these principles exist. So, in the same way that my experience is that our environment now has been massively modified. There's one of the eye-opening movies for me with this is I happen to believe that the people who are powerful enough to control the world do broadcast and tell us what they're doing. And so there's a Dustin Hoffman, Robert De Niro movie, really funny, called Wag the Dog.
Oh yeah,
And right?
100%.
And so if you look at what's just happened, we had the release of the Epstein files, followed immediately by a war, followed by massive weather upheaval for an enormous number of people. And I can tell you straight up, when I'm going through this weather upheaval, it is such a focus. Like all I want to do is like lay on my living room floor. I'm like just stuck at home waiting to protect my home. That's it. Like I got my shovel, I got my boards, I got my pipes, and I'm gonna watch that water and I'm gonna protect my home. I don't really want to go out because it takes like 2 hours. And this week was so funny. The last couple of days, there is zero radar over Maui with rain. Zero. Nothing. And I've had that trench in the backyard and the pipe running full bore with water. Like there's nothing over Maui and I'm getting creamed.
You're getting subsurface runoff. And so
Well,
this
no,
is
it's raining too. It's
right,
raining.
Oh, okay.
but this is the thing we run into here is so I work in Granite Bay for 3 more weeks, but the hill that I work on, I call it the 100-acre wood that's above our plant. And it's got a grade elevation of 50 to 100 feet, and it covers about 16 acres. And I'm the guy that put the fire road in it and started cleaning it all out. But the first year I got there, I'm like, where's all this effing water coming from? It's spring and it's pouring out of this hill. And so the second year I was there, I watched, and the rains come and it soaks the hill, but it gets caught in kind of this granite bowl until it hits this point. And then when the sun comes out, it breaks everything open, so the channels open up, and then the hill gives up all its water. And it's like a fire hose for 3 weeks driving through it. It's just horrifying. And I'm going, okay, well, that explains why Rose Creek Road is a road, because it was probably Rose Creek and it got filled by all the water coming out this hill. So it's
Yeah.
probably, that's going to happen to you too. We have an opportunity. We have such an opportunity to affect this planet in a positive manner. And since, I don't know, somewhere around year one, we didn't bother to do so because we're a creature, we're a locust, man. We eat resources and we expend resources. And one of the things that I've hated all my life is this word climate change. I absolutely hate it 100% from one end to the other because the climate is supposed to change and it's been doing it since day one. What I don't like are climate effects. When you take Switzerland's Alps and you put a bunch of resorts and trains and highways and hotels and chalets and all this other stuff in them, and then you say, man, what happened? How come this place doesn't have as much snow as it did? I would guess that all those cars, houses, and hotels have a heat envelope that you put over the place that destroyed the very thing you wanted to enjoy, and you didn't consider that. And Europe is a prime example of how not to build a city. All of Europe is this, and we've been doing it since day one. Those are climate effects. That's not climate change. The reason why the weather's different is because you put all those damn houses there, and it's the same thing in North Carolina with barrier islands. You're not supposed to live on the edge of the ocean in a hurricane zone. Those islands are supposed to be like that so they get beat to hell so that you can live on the inside and not get hurt. And I just think once we start saying we need to do this, now how do we get everybody else on board? We look at the effects and
I
make
hear
it
you. And
reasonable.
so if you look at the end of my career as a financial advisor, which was 2010, 2008 was when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt.
Right.
And underneath that bankruptcy was derivatives. Now, I was kind of a savant in the stock market. Like I was really good at it. The year I turned 30, I made $1 million and I amassed quite an amount of wealth before I was 38. Before God said easy come, easy go. But that's a
Yep,
different
been there.
story. And inside of the stock market, I had this sense of artificialness.
Yeah.
And that there was a disconnect between the stories that I read and then what was actually happening. And so I reduced the stock market down to two pieces of data. It was very simple for me. I would hypnotize myself nightly by washing myself over with price and volume data. That's it. So I would look
Who's
at
gonna be waiting for how much? Yep.
hundreds of stock charts nightly to see the pattern of where is the money moving. That's all I was trying to figure out. And the way I would describe my investment philosophy was that there are elephants moving through these markets, like Fidelity or Vanguard or now BlackRock. And all I'm trying to do is find out where they're stepping, and I'm trying to get a ride on top of their feet. Like I don't need to be perfect about it. I just want to go in the direction that they're going. And what took me out of the industry was that after the crisis in 2008, we if we followed natural rhythm, that high that had been set in 2000 probably should have been a generational or lifetime high, where you have like 70 years and the stock market is going down and backing and filling for decades before it comes up and goes higher again. And what happened was the stimulus money, the artificial intervention by our government caused the markets to
Yep.
go up
100%.
so much that the disconnect between the truth in my body and what I was seeing in the world became so severe that it literally twisted my spine. I
Yeah.
became, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now let's go to our common ground around water, where you and I both know it, but from, slightly different perspectives. So we have been engineered to see water through purity and safety. Now, the other side of purity and safety is fear
Right.
about what's in our water.
Water.
Right.
And so the government action is now imposing fluoride. And let's be clear, when we say the word fluoride, we're talking about fluorosilicic acid. I forget
Yeah,
the
that's
form,
1 of 2. Yeah.
right?
So fluorosilicic acid and a hydro hydrofluoric acid. And what people don't understand, just really quick for all of you, this is technical, look it up on chat. Hydrofluoric acid destroys metal. It's designed to destroy metal. It's built to destroy metal, and they want to use it to preserve your teeth. I want you to think about that.
Yeah.
How
Well,
exactly does it preserve your teeth if it destroys metal? And it destroys
right.
your teeth.
And if it were something natural, like there is an
Right.
element, fluorine,
Right.
right?
There's no fluorine.
And you can have an F minus as your formula, and
Right.
that would be fluoride, and that would be natural. But the formula for fluorosilicic acid, it's been a while since I looked it up, but it's something like H2SI6
Yeah, that's horrifying.
something something, right? It's an amalgamation of toxins,
Yeah.
right? And what
Right.
that is being understood to do is to have a profound impact on our consciousness. And so we've been sold the story that this is helping us in water. We're sold the story that managing mortgages through derivatives made sense. But if you ask any person of regular participation in the stock market to actually explain the underpinnings of those derivatives, nobody understood them. And I hated that about it. I was like, if I don't understand it, I don't want to be around it. And so in the water, in the markets, you have these in the weather, you have these interventions that are coming in from a part of our world that I do not consent to. I do not consent to heavy metals being dropped over my land and landing on my soft little bald head and going into my brain. I do not consent to them going into the earth where I'm planting my trees and growing my food. I do not consent. And nobody's asking for and getting my consent and honoring my land and honoring my opportunity to be on this earth. And so, in order to remedy the problem in the water part, what I do is I use really high quality filtration to remove the concentration that those people are putting into my water. And then I use an energetic tool to restore the natural energetics as much as possible. And of course, that's my niche, right? Is the energetics of water, because what I want is to be alive and natural. I
Yeah.
do not I do not want the man-made adapted version of this life. So to your idea of like taking the planes away, my son, the 23-year-old James who works with me, has become a social media influencer. And he all of a sudden has hundreds of thousands of followers and he's doing really well. And he posts every single day. And he said he got his newest idea last night, which is he's going to prepare 7 days ahead and then he's going to shut off social media for a week. And he's going to ask a number of questions to see what happens in his life. And he was inspired by somebody who did this by shutting off their phone, the whole phone completely for 30 days. And they did brain scans. He did brain scans before and after. And the neurologist that looked at the scan said, I've never seen a more powerful therapeutic in 30 days for impacting somebody's brain. So he's giving himself the natural, non-man-made version of
Yeah,
his
the
life.
vacation.
I'm so happy for him trying that
No,
experiment.
I think that's awesome, and I think it's funny because here we are on social media, and hopefully people are listening to us. And if you are, thank you very much for listening on Radio Bob, and this is Trick and all that. But at the end of the day, if you're not sane in your own mind or a little bit safer or secure or balanced in your own world, and then you decide to go on social media to find out about something and you start getting pissed off, you shouldn't be blaming social media. You should be blaming yourself because that was a negative thing that you started to do and you were already in a negative place. And I'm not saying that we're all going to be singing kumbaya and be positive with each other. I'm absolutely sure there are going to be people out there that want you and me gone, and there are going to be other people that don't believe that that's fair, and that's the way it is. But you got to balance yourself, and you cannot go around being PO'd all day long. It's going to hurt somebody, and if it's somebody else, that's not cool. You want to hurt yourself, I can't stop you. There's no way I could stop somebody from hurting themselves. Really, what, tie them up? Maybe I've done that for a living. It's not fun. But if you want to hurt other people, that's uncool. That's uncool, and we talk about the horrors of our society, of just not to be too political or anything like that. But I remember the fall of Iran, and I remember the pictures of Beirut, and my Navy buddies talking about times they spent in Lebanon and Gaza in the 1960s in a place that sounded like Cannes Beach in France. It was umbrellas, and it was Mai Tais, and it was friendly people, and they had the rights to vote, and they had the rights to determine their destiny, and they never had that again. They're slaves in their own country. Millions of women all over are slaves. And it's a wound, but it can't last. And if it does last, then everybody's going to be the slaves. So the war thing is really scary. The Ukraine, different deal. There's a ton of things that we should be involved in, but if you're not stable to begin the day, getting to the rest of that stuff's going to be a real challenge.
Well,
and you're
and
providing a real service
Yeah.
with this structured water device because, and I talk about this, people, localization and understanding your local world for your food, for your water, for your pollens, for your air, for your meeting people is everything. That's your first stable environment. Like you have your new house, that's your first stable environment. And you get to, once you drop your water in your house, right? That drop of water, And what happens? We know what happens. This ring spreads out, and it's like your device and our nonprofit radio station. We want to be that drop of water that causes the ripple that causes everybody to go, whoa,
Yeah.
just
Well,
whoa.
if it feels,
It
yeah, if it feels overwhelming for people,
does.
I invite them to consider like what I started doing 15 years ago is orienting my activities and my vacations and things around water. So I started,
Sure.
I would walk on a daily basis at the ocean's edge. And when I went somewhere, I would hike to a waterfall or a spring. And that starts to open it. So yeah, I actually, if I go all the way back, let me see how old I was. I was 30 or 31. So 25 years ago, I was regularly jogging 5 to 7 miles pretty much every other day because I needed the day to recover, um, to burn the stress of the stock market. Like that was actually that's the year I earned $1 million, right?
Wow.
And so it just hurt so much. I just had to like go burn it, right? It was
Right.
definitely like a man running from the dungeon kind of thing. And what happened was my iliotibial bands, which connect the hips to the knees, got so tight that I couldn't run. And so I started seeking help. And I found this woman who is really connected. And I went to her and she said, well, you know what the tight iliotibial corresponds to, right? And I was like, no, I'm pretty new at this. I have no idea. What do you mean corresponds to? Like, I don't even understand the premise of your statement. And she's like, well, that's because your spirituality is tight. Your leg is tight. And I was like, okay. And she's like, well, I want you to like go into nature. I was like, what do you mean? Like I run into the park in the morning on my runs and then I run out and go home. She's like, yeah, walk into the park and go find a rock and go sit on it. I was like, whatever, you know?
Right. Right.
And then because I was just miserable. This is such an interesting thing. I'm sure you can feel in my story the intensity
Yeah.
of what I was living.
Yeah.
And then here comes nature in the form of subtle energy wanting to guide me out. And it's like I'm listening to rock music at a level of 99, and you're standing 10 feet away from me whispering,
Yeah.
and you
That's what it
think
is.
that's going to help me change my life. So I would go into the woods, and I remember this one like elephant shaped rock, and I would sit on the rock and like look at the pond. I was like, okay, Jane, I'm in nature, you know? And it's like when the noise is that loud and the whisper is that quiet, you just can't tell.
Right.
Right.
25 years later, I'm a nature boy,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So now what happens is I think the reason I got this home is that this home took away 99% of the world's soundscape. The mowers, the motorcycles, the garbage trucks, all the things, they're gone.
Yeah.
So every time I have to like drive to town, and it's like 25 minutes to town now, and it's kind of far, you know? And I say, this is the opportunity I get to pay. This is the price I pay for the quiet I enjoy.
Yeah.
Right.
And so now that I'm in this quiet, the predominant noise on this property when we're not having this crazy weather pattern, but we actually have trade winds, the predominant noise is very natural flowing wind and birds chirping. And so and the land is super soft grass that's now very wet. And so I'm walking out with bare feet all the time. And, I think I was telling you guys before the show that the guy who had this property before, he laid infrastructure to put two cottages on the property because his vision was rental income. And I decided this week I'm going to take my shovel outside and I'm going to dig that shit up. It's probably going to take, I'm guessing, 1 to 2 months to dig up everything that he put in the ground. But I don't want the fruit trees that I'm planting to have their roots competing with the infrastructure that he left. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to go like commune with my land. And I know as I do that, well, 100% I know my body's going to get healthier as I do that. And I know that it will impact the quality of the fruit that is produced on this land, having a human who's so intentional about loving the land and loving the trees and being one with nature. So from reluctant rock sitter to I'm excited not to hire an excavator, but to use my foot and my shovel. Um, I just got a wheelbarrow delivered yesterday. I Googled earlier this week. People still do that. You don't go to chat, you actually go to Google. And I Googled innovative wheelbarrow. And I found this wheelbarrow that it's an 8-in-1. You can move a fridge with it. I can carry a tree stump with it. I can fill
Cool.
it with mulch and mix things in it. It's got a rock carrier. It's got a mesh rock carrier. And the first thing I did when we built it in the living room last night, and the first thing I did was put my daughter in it. I was like, get in there. Let's see what happens. And I went to lift her, and the balance point, they say it takes a couple 100 pounds to make it feel like 17 pounds. The balance point was extraordinary. So I'm going to use this tool and a shovel, and I'm going to do what people do with an excavator in a day. I'm going to do it over 2 months. I'm going to be healthier, stronger, more connected to my land. All that from 25 years ago, just honestly not being able to hear the whisper of sitting on a rock.
Yeah, just really quick, we were very lucky. We moved into a senior community because, we needed to live in California. Yasmin's job's 5 minutes away now, so I guess it was good moving there. But the backyard had a lemon tree in it, that was it. And we're on top of the hill, so all the sound from below us will come up the hill, right? And you can hear it. You can hear when a fire engine goes down the highway.
Yeah.
But you can't hear the highway. I can stand up. I built this thing called a prairie dog perch. It's actually a meditation table in my backyard. It's only about 8 inches high. I should have gone about 7 more, but I just made it 8 or 12 inches high. And when you stand on it on an absolute clear day, you can see Mount Lassen. You can see with your eye Mount Lassen, which is almost 450 miles away from our house, off of this perch because there's a gap in the mountains. And so if you take out the binoculars, you can actually see the snowy tip of Lassen all the way up there.
Wow.
So my view is outstanding. And the place is relatively quiet unless somebody dies, which happens about every other day. There's a going through. Well, it's a senior community. You don't get to know your neighbors because they're going to be dead soon, or you're going to be dead, or whatever. So it's really kind of weird, but it's so quiet. But back to that other thing, the nature thing. So I started sailing when I was 6 or 7. I guess they take me out on the folk boat. And I started swimming when I was about 7. And I bought my first waterbed. I bought my first waterbed at the age of 8. And I slept on one until I was 49. She made me give it up. At 49, I had a hot tub. And I've been in that hot tub almost every night, if not 3 times a day. I spent 35 years on the water in tugboating and maritime work, water skiing, teaching kids, all that kind of stuff. And if I go without sitting in that hot tub for more than 4 or 5 days, I'm a basket case. And she knows it. She's like, she doesn't quite know why, but I know why, because at one point I became an amphibian. And it's just the way it is. And I say, I'm going to go rinse in the shower. I'm in there for 20 minutes. I don't care. I'm an amphibian. If I don't have that much water contact every day, at the end of the week, I'm a basket case. And I got to sit in that hot tub for an hour.
Yeah, I understand. I'm that way with heat, actually. So sauna and hot tub. And
she was here.
yeah, the first thing I did after getting this house under contract was there was a hot tub sale and I put a deposit on one. And yeah, I can't wait to get it installed because
Yeah, I love mine. It's 100 degrees, got the jets, and it's slowly moved its way under the cover because when I built the place, the rules were X. can't have it in that location kind of thing. And so I said, okay, so I built a pad for it. And I've slowly been moving it back in, kind of under the covers, so half of it's out of the weather. So I can enjoy it, because in the wintertime, that's the best time to have a hot tub around here. Because the summertime it's 120 degrees, you don't need it. But
Yeah.
I need the water, and so now that I'm going to retire, I've got my 3 pools around the corner too. I'm going to go use them. But if I didn't have that, you know, Yasmin's water regimen is a serious thing. You guys,
Yeah, I do it internally.
yeah, she does.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful too.
Yep.
yeah.
Okay,
I mean, all the ways, you know. So I see the flowers behind you in the on your screen there, and I think it's not even real flowers, but you know,
they are.
No, they are. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
okay. I mean, sometimes all you can do is get something living into your space.
Yeah.
So you bring a plant in, or you bring some flowers in. Sometimes all there is like really honoring the water you're putting in your body. Sometimes you get to submerge in it. The thing is, all these things contain water, and we're part of it. We're not separated from it. So
Yeah.
how I just hope when we talk like this that people can understand.
Yeah.
Right? Just getting water and nature closer to them.
Okay. Yeah, so we have somebody who's arrived, so we've got to go now.
Yeah.
But thank you, Patrick, again for a wonderful conversation, and I love diving deep into
Yeah.
these topics. And
we've covered some really cool stuff today. I really appreciate it. We scheduled our housekeeper on today because she had a problem, and I want to make sure she can get started so she can get home to deal with the rest of her problems. So I think she's
Well,
being
thank you.
quiet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for taking time out to have a real
Oh, thank you
conversation.
very much for being there, and we hope everything goes well for you. And I am not kidding you. Send me whatever you want to send me. Send me a video, send me some pictures. Tell me what you want to do. And if I can help you, I will. If I can't, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna make a video of my yard. I'll love your help. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
cool. Yeah,
All right.
we'll take care of you. No problem.
All
sounds
right.
good.
Appreciate it. All right, I'll
Thank
talk to
you.
you guys.
Have a great day.
Okay, you too. Bye bye.
Okay, Shadow.